And welcome to our very first Chai and Chats. So I'm Jo, and I'll let Victoria introduce herself in a moment. But I met Victoria through yoga, and she has been my mentor, hashtag lifesaver, and all manner of glorious things. And we have these really lovely sort of explorative chats about all sorts of things. And today we thought we'd share one of them with the rest of the world about sleep.
Hi, I'm Victoria and I'm from Tree Living Yoga, and Jo and I met through yoga. I teach yoga and Jo's practicing yoga quite often. And yeah, just what Jo said, we've both had sleep. Yeah, I've had sleep issues in the past, but now I feel that with a little bit of practice, I've cracked a formula for my own sleep, and know that Jo's battling with a little bit of sleep. What would you call it? Like up and downness, like a sleep roller coaster sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough to say. Yeah, so I think so. One of the things I would like to ask you is, what do you find, or what have your experiences been about improving sleep, and what can a person do to improve their environment, for example?
For me, I know often, right, when I was younger, I used to use my bedroom for more than just to sleep in. So I might be practicing yoga in it, doing a little bit of work on my laptop on it, and then trying to sleep. So I've tried to make my bedroom like the place where I go to sleep. So it's kind of like it's like the sleep room, and things just like the colours in my bedroom, and having none of my devices. So I don't charge anything. That's one big thing actually. I don't charge anything in my bedroom. So like my laptop, my phone, things like that, they're outside of my bedroom on charge. Um, and also smells. Like not everybody likes lavender, and but I quite like sort of something. Actually, you gave me a little lavender thing for Christmas, um,
Yes.
and that is hung on my headboard. So it's like a really subtle sort of smell of lavender, but it's quite nice. And in the winter, I've got one of those lavender eye pillows that I put on the radiator. So you get this sort of nice, it's like a gentle waft in the room. Obviously, your pillow as well, and duvets. I can't. I find it really difficult if things aren't cotton or
Mm.
feather. When it's fibery and you get um, all that sort of like it's like heat, but not nice heat. Heat that sort of feels like it's sort of like artificial, like aircon heat, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think
Um,
it's interesting because I get very chilly. Well, actually, no, I used to be super chilly, so I would be kind of like a lizard, sort of with no internal heat at all. So, and then my husband is super warm, so we almost needed to have two different environments in the same space. Um, which has caused, I think lots of couples are like that though, that they don't have the same heating system going on. So he would maybe, at a point where I'm thinking, gosh, this is really lovely and warm, he's just about to die. um, and I think that, almost, I think there are some places now where you can get duvets that are of different, half is thin, half is thick, and
and
that's quite helpful.
mattresses as well. You can get a mattress that's firm and soft, and you can get like the summer winter variation. Yeah, my brother and his wife, they have different heating systems, and I'm a little bit like you. I'm more like a lizard, and I love like loads of layers and being really warm. The other thing is, what do you think about when people snore? If like a couple, one of you snores and the other one doesn't,
Well,
and
I have to say that apparently, um, people only snore because they have very little noses.
really,
It's nothing to those. Richie will
oh,
say
I'll
he
be
snores
like,
because his
I'm
tiny
a
little
wonder.
nose. It's not because of anything else. And occasionally, I think everybody snores, I think, for a variety of reasons. And sometimes it's positional, so you can roll somebody over if they're snoring. And it tends to be, it's that collapsed windpipe thing. Is I used to work, I was a nurse, and when you work in recovery, if somebody's airway collapses, they snore. So you just the best thing you can do for somebody snoring is to just kind of just tilt the head back, and that'll open it up, and they'll be that improves things enormously. But
Oh no, I should have tried that with my mum. We went on holiday together, and just before I was thinking, oh, I know I'll be fine sleeping with my mum, and I had this memory of when I was a child that my mum snored a lot, and I said, "Oh, do you snore, mum?" And she was like, "No, no, I don't snore." And so we shared a bed in a like an Airbnb place, and oh, she was the loudest snorer that I've ever encountered, and I was thinking, just ignore it. And I kept kind of like I thought I just rolled her onto her side, thinking that
mm,
would work, but it didn't. She was still going for it.
it makes people really violent, and if you don't get a good night's sleep for whatever reason, it can just drive you nuts. So some people it's ticking, I love ticking clocks. I like to have the window open, but if you spend sort of sleeping time with somebody who likes particularly rigid rules about what they can go to sleep with, that can be quite hard. And I think one of the things which I'm starting to feel really sort of is worth exploring is about, you know, why is it that we feel there's this need to actually sleep with the same person, in that, you can have all of your lovely time, you can have
Do
your
you want to
cuddles and your intimacy, but
sleep
you don't actually
with different
physically
people?
have to sleep together. Hmm?
Do you want to sleep with different people then?
Maybe. We won't talk about that's a different chat. But I think, well, no, but if you think about it, so there's this my husband and I, we chat, and sometimes we think, is it a bad sign if you were to sleep in separate rooms? And initially I think we both thought, yeah, that's bad, that's not great. But actually I'm much happier and kinder to him if he hasn't kept me up all night snoring. And I have nightmares. Part of the thing about having Parkinson's is that sometimes we have this terrible thing where we feel that our dreams are real and we act them out in our sleep, and that's really distressing for him. So the other night, I woke up in the morning and he said, "You had an awful dream last night. I think you were being chased," and he'd found it really awful, and I just slept through the whole thing. So I think it's about doing what's best for you as an individual or as a couple, and it could be that people have got kids in the bed with them,
Yeah.
or it could be that you're menopausal and you're wafting covers back every 10 minutes because you're too hot or whatever. The idea that two people go to sleep, or that we all go to sleep and then we just close our eyes and wake up 8 hours, 5 hours, 10 hours later, like was it not Cinderella? Who's the one who's in the
Sleeping Beauty.
which is the one with the slipper? No, it's Cinderella, isn't it? Where you wake up, with bluebirds dripping water all over you. I mean, I don't really think that happens for a lot of people, and I think then there's this sense of frustration and um, negative judgment about ourselves if we're not getting that particular.
I think you're right on having all those rules. So if like for 8 hours and being in bed with your husband or your partner at the same time, going to sleep together, I think we get attached to all the things that like society or our friendship group or our peer
Mm,
group says that we should do. So we
mm,
like should have 8 hours, shouldn't eat cheese, shouldn't do different things like that. And I think it's really individual for everybody to find their own rhythm, and maybe being prepared to go, it's okay if I've had 5 hours sleep today, because sometimes I might have 5 hours but I feel good,
mm.
so there's some sort of mental chatter that's going on saying, but you've only had 5 hours, surely you must be tired. And then I think that's that chatter that's going on because the rules are that 8 hours is the golden amount of sleep. You start to believe that you're tired, even if you're not, because you've had 5 hours.
So do you have a ritual of kind of winding down and getting ready to go to bed?
Yeah, I do, but only more so because I think obviously if you don't have a problem sleeping, then you don't have to do. You're obviously kind of like flowing with whatever works for you. But for me, for years, I really struggled to sleep, and I don't know if it was my first job was an air hostess for Virgin, and it was all like long haul flights, and I
Right.
was often up at like really silly hours and things like that. And then now studying more Ayurvedic, like yoga sister science, looking at the times of when's best for me to go to bed, if I create this nice little ambient environment in my bedroom and I choose to read instead of watching Netflix or Amazon Prime, which is I used to quite like doing that, but I think that stimulating blue light thing, and I might watch something that would be too stimulating. So if I read, generally it does make me feel a bit more sleepy. And
Mm.
I found it was the same with conversations for me. So my ex-boyfriend was an offshore worker, and we always used to chat at sort of 8:30, 9 o'clock, and I had to stop doing it because I felt that that was waking my brain up. And then by the time I came off the phone call was a bit like watching Netflix or doing some work. It's sort of stimulating my brain, so I couldn't shut down. So yeah, I have this sort of little, maybe I try and make it an hour, but if I don't get an hour in, then maybe half an hour where there's nothing stimulating, whether that's conversation or Netflix or things like that. And I have a little, I always have a drink instead of having something to eat. I don't like going to bed hungry. So, but if I make myself a milky drink there's a moon milk recipe on my website, and it's things like with nutmeg and cinnamon, and there's an Ayurvedic herb called ashwagandha, and just a few of these things that you get this lovely nourishing milky, it's like a big hug in a drink. And although I said nothing stimulating, do you know what? I love listening to the Moby sleep soundtracks.
Right.
Have you listened to any of them?
I haven't listened to those. I like I've been listening to the Calm app, and my sleep pattern's been all over the place. I used to sleep like I could sleep on a washing line, and a bit like you. So I nursed for lots of years and did nights, and I just got quite good at being able to just put my head down at any time and just sleep. It's never been an issue for me. So finding myself having problems with sleep has been interesting, to say the least. I think I got away with it for a long time, but I think that there's calm stories, and the ones that I've really enjoyed have been things like John McEnroe, who does the rule. He reads the rules of tennis. It's
Oh
so
wow.
boring. I get to how wide the tennis ball has to be, and I'm honestly asleep. And the shipping forecast, which I don't understand any of it. It's just, it sounds like, if hieroglyphics made a noise, that would be what it was. And just very sort of monotone voices, and Stephen Fry, there's a free one that Stephen Fry does, which is great, where, hi, I'm Stephen Fry, and he starts talking about, castles in Provence, and in 1874, blah blah blah. And
Oh, well, I think that I could do that sometimes talking about yoga. When you talk and I talk and I can see that maybe someone's glazing over a little bit. And my dad does it to me when he tells me about life insurance or investments and things.
No, but you've got to be kind to yourself as well with that, my love, because I taught for a lot of years, and I went from thinking, there would always be somebody who was shattered. And I went from thinking, oh my gosh, I must be really boring, to thinking they must be just really tired. So they've either had a big meal or they didn't sleep well the night before. So instead of sort of saying, wake that person up, I'd be like, oh God, love them. They might have been on nights, put a blanket over them, just leave them to it, let them sleep, and just and sort of it's the way of the world, really, isn't it? There's nothing worse than being in a warm room with a full tummy, and it doesn't matter. It could be the best and most brilliant thing in the world, and I would just be in a slight coma. So I
So
think
how do you think that you have like cracked it for a little bit with your sleep, or do you think it is a bit of an evolving thing?
I absolutely, I think that's it in a nutshell. I think I'm not sure we ever crack anything, and I think that it's a kind of a combination of good luck and judgment. So I'm learning about what works, and I'm trying to be more fluid. And when we talked about the difficulties of words like should and swapping it for could, I could do this and I could do that, and I'll give things a go, and if it works, great. So I used to be able to drink caffeine up till really late and sleep like a top, and then it was almost like overnight I couldn't do that anymore. So for me, I know that if I have caffeine on an evening, or actually after midday, then that's not great. I remember thinking when I realised how long caffeine stayed in your system for, that my kids were little and I was breastfeeding and they weren't sleeping well, and it's because I was shattered, so I'd have a coffee. So effectively, they're having a coffee, and then I'm thinking, why doesn't this baby sleep? And it's because I'm caffeinating it. Thinking, bloody hell!
How long does it stay in your
I think
system?
it's 12 hours. It's
Oh,
in your system
wow.
for. I
That
might be making that up. That's not.
We'll have a look because I stopped drinking coffee probably around midday. Maybe the last time would be 2 in the afternoon. But when I've had one at 4, I've I might have struggled to sleep that night and
So you have
thought,
to make sure to get your espresso martini with a decaf coffee. Top tips.
yeah.
But so what are your top tips to take away on our little chat?
I think number one, everybody's different, and don't get hung up on those things that you should do. Almost think of it as like this really exciting blank canvas to create your very own sleep, like maybe sleep ceremony or sleep ritual. So it's making it like an exciting thing that you do, like, oh yeah, I can go and like get prepared for sleep, like when you do it with kids and we're going to have a bath, and it's like
Yes,
those
yes.
those signals that start kind of saying to your body, oh, okay, bath, great, so now we're going to start to chill out. And
Yeah, yeah.
and it's like an exciting little journey of making your own little ritual. And maybe it's this like sacred time as well that's just for you. So find out what your own triggers are. You could start using like one of ours, really. I would, and like we were talking about earlier, saying words, having that own self chat, and instead of saying don't eat, don't do this, offer the alternative instead. So like I'm going to read, because I'm choosing to read as opposed to Netflix.
Mm.
I'm going to make myself a comforting sleepy drink. Some people like chamomile tea as well. There's some awesome chamomile tea recipes that I'll put on our links afterwards. And I also have a little foot massage with sesame oil and lavender oil,
Mm.
and that's really nice. And it's all those little triggers and having non-charging things, even if you have your phone to listen to, the shipping forecast, maybe not have it on charge. I think that kind of gives that extra stimulant.
Mm. Yeah, you're just turning it the other way around, so you're not going to see the light from it and things like that. And
And
just one of the messages that they mentioned on one of the stories, I'm afraid I can't remember which one, but it was saying, again, I suppose it's the voices, the sort of narrative that we tell ourselves, the stories that we tell ourselves. So rather than thinking I can't go to sleep, thinking I can. My body knows how to do this. It will remember. It wants to go to sleep, and actually a bit of self-compassion. And because sometimes it's like trying to pick up a bar of soap, isn't it? The more you try to grab something, the more it pings out of your hands and it off into the distance. Whereas if you just trust that your body knows what to do and let it do that, it's sort of it's a bit kinder, really.
oh, 100%. Even when you've lost something and you're looking for it, like when you lose a key or an earring or something, and the more you search, the less you're able to find it.
Mm, yes, or words in my case, as a woman of a certain age, they seem to disappear in front of me. My vocabulary honestly has shrunk from being, say, that big to being that big, and it's a terrifying thing, the amount of time I now spend thinking, what is that? Maybe we should do a chat about that. What
Maybe.
is that word?
So for us, we've got we can put in the links for people to follow some things from the Sleep Council. Have got really good advice actually as well. And there's a little blog that I have on my sleep ritual and a moon milk recipe, and some links to the shipping forecast and the calm. Uh,
As recommended by moi.
yeah. And there's also a lovely little yoga sequence you can do in bed to help you go to sleep, which is only 10 minutes long, which
Brilliant.
we've got on YouTube. So we'll include all of that for everybody. And if anybody listens and has enjoyed our chat, and you'd like to give us a topic or join in with us, that's our 20 minutes because we over talk. Then just send either Jo or myself a message. Thanks, Jo. It's been so nice.
Namaste, my darling.